On the day of our wedding, my fiance called me by the wrong name. I love you, Cecilia, he said without hesitation. I froze. Cecilia Atkinson was the name of his first love. A murmur swept through the crowd. Furious, I threw my bouquet and called off the wedding. When we met again later, I was pushed up against the car door by a man and kissed so fiercely I could hardly breathe. Hendrik was seething as he shouted, I thought we were good friends, and you went behind my back and stole my fiancé. Frederick Haywood, holding me by the waist, chuckled. If it weren't for Christine, you really think you could be my friend? At the wedding venue, the officiant asked, Mr. Ferguson, at this moment, what would you like to say to your bride? I stood beside Kendrick, holding my bouquet, smiling sweetly. To my surprise, my fiancé Kendrick said, I love you, Cecilia. Silence fell over the room. I was stunned. The officiant, sensing the quiet, continued there seems to be a lack of applause. Mr. Ferguson, your voice is a bit too soft. Let's try that again. Speak loudly. Declare your love for the bride. I love you, Cecilia. His voice was firm and commanding. The officiant glanced at his notes, then asked, What's your bride's name? Sue? Kendrick suddenly realized, and his voice trailed off. The crowd broke into murmurs. Just moments ago, everyone had been brimming with congratulations. Now whispers filled the air, and people occasionally shot glances at me, sizing me up and sneering. My hand, still clutching the bouquet, trembled. Kendrick, what does it mean? Why do you call your ex's name? I asked, barely containing my rage. His eyes flickered with panic, but he quickly took my hand and smiled. I got distracted, Christine. I didn't mean it. I was just a little out of it from staying up too late last night. I pulled my hand away, the emotions I had kept buried finally flooding to the surface. Was your mind so off that you confessed her name twice? If you're still hung up on your ex and don't want to marry me, just say so. Kendrick was usually hot-headed, and I had always been the one to give in. But now I had no patience left. His brow furrowed, his voice growing irritated. You know exactly how this marriage came about, don't you? Cecilia was Kendrick's girlfriend in college. Not long ago, there were rumors they were rekindling their romance. I didn't take it to heart, but hearing him say this, I swallowed my tears and forced a smile. I felt like a fool. For the past few years, we had grown up together. Our families had always been close. After graduation, we were both single, and our parents naturally arranged for us to marry. He never objected. I felt there would be something special about childhood friendships. Seeing that he didn't oppose, I secretly felt pleased. I thought Cecilia was just a chapter of his past. Now I realized she was the one he could never forget. Seeing that Kendrick was about to fly off the handle, Ophelia Ferguson, Kendrick's mother, quickly came over and grabbed my hand. Christine, he just got distracted. He didn't do it on purpose. I shook my head, pushing her hand away. Mrs. Ferguson, this wedding can't continue? Ophelia tried again. He just cares about his pride, Christine. He didn't mean to hurt you. Don't worry. I'll make sure he doesn't bully you. After the wedding, if you have a son, we will transfer 2% of Ferguson Group shares to your name. My parents, whose faces had been dark with tension, seemed to soften. At that, Kendrick's father, Gerald Ferguson, slapped Kendrick across the face. Apologize to Christine. You can't act like this at your wedding. Kendrick staggered back from the slap, rubbing his cheek and muttering, Whatever, I don't care about this wedding. I clenched my bouquet, feeling like a joke. My groom called out his ex's name twice during the wedding, and this was something I couldn't get past. I threw my bouquet aside, snatched the microphone from the officiant, and without regard for the crowd, I declared the wedding canceled. Then, lifting my dress, I stormed out. Ophelia tried to stop me, but Kendrick tore the boutonniere off his suit and threw it to the ground. Let her go, Christine. If you dare to leave, then don't come, crying to me and begged me to get back together. Ophelia seeing Kendrick in a fit of rage and me announcing the cancellation of the wedding right in front of them grew angry. Christine, if you leave now, it will be harder to come back. She was hinting at something. I pushed her hand away and walked out without looking back. Given what had happened, it wasn't surprising Ophelia thought I wouldn't easily give up on Kendrick. They all knew I had liked him since childhood. No matter what rumors or scandals surrounded him, I always shrugged them off. Whenever there was friction between us, I was the one to apologize first. I even defended his reputation in front of the media. When the rumors about him and Cecilia resurfaced, I firmly said I believe in him. Hearing that, they all believed I was head over heels for Kendrick. Little did they know that relationships require mutual effort. My best friend, Ophelia Russell, followed me out of the venue, scolding Kendrick while trying to comfort me. It's fine. The world isn't just about Kendrick. Come on, Christine, let's go relax. I wiped my tears and nodded. But before I could leave, my parents called, scolding me. The Ferguson family is offering 2% of the shares and you're running away? Every man fools around before marriage. They all come back to the family in the end. You've been living under our roof all these years. Don't you think you should consider your family before making such a huge decision? A chill ran through me. I had always done what they expected, been the obedient daughter at home and the graceful lady outside. Our family wasn't any worse than the Fergusons. Now I was publicly humiliated, yet my parents wanted me to bow my head. I wouldn't compromise. I had my own dignity. I didn't want to listen to them anymore. So I hung up and turned off my phone. That same day, I flew to Caledonia with Ophelia. When we landed, Ophelia, worried I might still be thinking about Kendrick, leaned in and whispered. Kendrick posted on his Twitter yesterday announcing his relationship with Cecilia. You should see the picture. She's sitting on his lap, kissing him. Those two have clearly been together for a while. Christine, you can't keep thinking about that scumbag. I smiled weakly. I won't. Now that the wedding is canceled, he and I have nothing to do with each other. One night was enough for me to figure everything out. I realized his heart had never been with me, and I was just a pawn in a family alliance. Let go when you need to, Ophelia said, giving me a thumbs up. We took a short rest at the hotel, and Ophelia, happy to see me feeling better, took me to the beach for a little sunshine. As I basked in the warmth, I felt a gaze on me. I took off my sunglasses and turned, only to be met with a burning gaze. The man was staring at me intensely. The heat of his gaze made my heart race. I quickly averted my eyes. I knew that man. He was Frederick Haywood, Kendrick's best friend, I thought. What is he doing here? Now that I thought about it, I hadn't seen him at the wedding. Frederick was different from Kendrick. He was said to be a wealthy heir from Zephyria, yet he was reserved and low-key. Somehow, he and the playboy Kendrick had become good friends. While I was lost in thought, Ophelia waved to Frederick, then whispered in my ear, he's been asking about you for a while. He heard about your canceled wedding and came all the way from Zephyria overnight. He's rich, handsome, and has status. He's so much better than Kendrick. You should go for him, girl. Frederick, Christine's been wanting to learn jet skiing. Why don't you teach her? With that, Ophelia winked at me meaningfully, took a sip of her juice, and walked away, leaving us alone. A tall figure suddenly entered my field of vision, taking the spot where Ophelia had been lying just moments ago. His deep voice slid into my ear. It's my honor. The sea breeze lightly brushed my ankles, bringing a refreshing chill. However, the heat radiating from the man behind me was so intense it seemed like it might melt me. Though Frederick was on friendly terms with Kendrick, he was known in our circle as a man of few words and a cold demeanor. Whenever I'd run into him in the past, he'd merely nod politely, his eyes showing no sign of favoritism. It was clear he never thought of me in any special way. I never expected that now he would. Don't space out, he whispered, his breath warm against my ear as he leaned in closer. He was controlling the jet ski, standing behind me. Our bodies pressed tightly together. The heat from his back seemed to flow through me like an electric current, making my cheeks flush hotter and hotter. Relax. Focus on the ripples in the water. He continued, don't worry about falling. We're both wearing life vests. I won't let anything happen to you. Before he could finish, he suddenly turned sharply, following the wave's curve. I lost my balance and tumbled backward right into his arms. His burning gaze met mine. The jet ski slowly came to a stop, and the sound of the waves seemed to fade away. The atmosphere around us felt almost romantic. I suddenly felt that maybe it was time to turn the page and give myself a fresh start. I was drawn to the undeniable charm of the man before me. I found myself staring at Frederick's red and ears, my hand gripping his arm as I leaned in to meet his lips. In the hotel room, Frederick held my waist tightly, spinning me around and pressing me against the door of the presidential suite. His presence was commanding, and the intensity of our emotions collided. It felt passionate. His kiss, burning and relentless, felt as though he was drowning me little by little. I was in a daze. Frederick restrained himself, burying his face in the crook of my neck. Christine, he murmured my name, lifting his head to look me in the eyes. I've been thinking about you for a long time. Are you sure about this? My gaze was hazy as I pulled his head down and wrapped my arms around his neck. We spent a passionate together. The next morning, I woke up groggily, pushing his large hand off my waist and flipping over to turn on my phone. The screen lit up with a flood of messages, as if she had predicted I would turn on my phone. At this moment, my mom's urgent call rang out. I frowned and sighed, but answered anyway. My mom said, "Where have you been? I don't approve of you and Kendrick breaking off your engagement. This marriage between our families isn't a joke. You need to come back now." I replied, "Mom, didn't you see? He already announced his new girlfriend on social media." Sometimes I couldn't help but wonder if I was even their real daughter. Mrs. Ferguson told me she only recognizes you as Kendrick's wife. No one else can marry Kendrick. I was exhausted. It's a pity I am not marrying Mrs. Ferguson. Mom, our family isn't so desperate that you need to sell your daughter, right? She wanted to say more, but I couldn't bear to listen. I ended the call abruptly. A strong arm wrapped around my waist, and with a quick motion, Frederick turned me to face him. He smiled and kissed me lightly on the lips. "Don't be upset. No one can force you to do anything." I thought he was joking and grinned. "You can't either. I can't." As we spoke, his hand moved, slipping under the covers. I pulled his hand away, grabbed the clothes nearby, and walked into the bathroom. He followed me closely.